Chairman, good morning. Madam Secretary, welcome back to the committee. Look forward to the opportunity to discuss the President's budget request this morning and a number of specific activities that the budget proposes to support. I appreciate my colleague and the chairman leading off with a discussion about fire. It's pretty tough in Alaska right now. We're up to about 2.8 million acres burned already. We had 13 new fires just in the past 24 hours. The smoke issues, particularly in the interior, have been a real challenge this summer, but we've seen it out in other parts of the state as well. It's dry, and the good news for us right now is that the rains are coming, and that's a positive, but we need to make sure that we're not just praying for rain as the policy here, to make sure that the fire threat doesn't bring about further damage. Obviously, some differing views on the committee here in terms of our energy resources and how we utilize them to the benefit of our country, certainly to the benefit of places like Alaska, which is, of course, a producing state. So I'd like to talk about a few of the issues, and I'll be a little parochial here just to start off. But on Friday, the Bureau of Land Management released a draft supplemental EIS for the Willow project within the NPRA, and I think you saw the press release on that. I welcomed that step. I can't stress enough the need for the department to move forward with final approval for the Willow project. It is my very sincere hope that the department will soon be able to issue permits so work can begin on this project during the upcoming winter season 22-23. We have had the conversation, Madam Secretary, I've had the conversation with the President, I've had the conversation with just about everybody in the administration that will listen to me on Willow. Because I firmly believe that we need to have a realistic plan for the future of our energy supply, and I think that Alaska definitely fits within that plan. The chairman mentioned the near-record high gas prices that families are seeing. It's bad all over the country, but if you're in a community like Yakutat, I follow the weekly gas prices in various communities around the state. Yakutat is paying about $7.25 a gallon for fuel. It's just tough. And so they're asking me, what are the tools that are available? What can the administration be doing? What can Congress be doing to help dampen these price increases that we're seeing? And for me, it comes down to the basics of economic supply and demand. And I am one who believes very strongly that the administration and here in this country, we need to use those tools at our disposal to increase domestic production, to improve our energy security, particularly as we're seeing the global disruptions and the unrest. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, Alaska stands ready, willing, and certainly able to be a big part of that solution, all while we insist on meeting the highest environmental standards in the world. The chairman has mentioned the 5-year plan for the offshore oil and gas that the department recently proposed. And again, given what we're seeing here at home, over in Europe, I truly believe that our national security interests require that we increase our domestic supply of these resources, including from our offshore areas. You know, I've heard the reference before that oil is an addiction. I recognize that we have a reliance on it. But when I think of an addiction like a heroin addiction, I think about it as something that there is no upside to heroin addiction. Our reality as a country is that we have a resource that not only we need right now, but the world needs right now. And it is not just to fuel our vehicles. I think we're moving to different transportation fuels, but that is a transition. But everything that we use practically has some aspect of petroleum in it. And so until we can figure out what that substitute is, this petroleum base that really powers and moves and allows us to function as a modern society is something that is in demand. And again, we can choose to look to others to meet that demand and make ourselves more vulnerable, more reliant on others, and particularly others that don't even like us or whose environmental track record is awful or whose human rights track record is awful. So I have said, as we transition from a fossil-based society, a transition requires that there be a path forward that is sensible for your economy and sensible, really, technologically. And so we got a lot of work to do there. I feel strongly, when it comes to the 5-year plan, that the administration has to move quickly to finalize a plan that keeps at least the current acreage available for offshore leasing, including in my state. But your proposed plan included the option of holding no lease sale at all, which I think that's unacceptable. For the department to even consider a 5-year plan that would include no lease sales, I just don't think makes sense, and I think it's actually harmful to our economy and our national security. The national interest demands the administration avoid a costly gap in leasing and that it conducts offshore sales. So I want to see annual sales in Cook Inlet, not one sale every 5 years. Failure to have meaningful oil and gas programs, including in the 1002 area where the administration is illegally disregarding the law, will reduce domestic investment at the worst possible time for our country and for our global allies. I think the president needs to focus on places like Alaska, not Saudi Arabia, not Venezuela, not Iran, and then work with us to achieve just that. So I've said before, Madam Secretary, Alaska is willing and able and ready to increase our nation's and our allies' energy security. All we really need is permission from the federal government to get moving, get those permits, and we are there. Another area where I'm hoping to see progress with the administration is in its commitment to mineral development. I do appreciate the President's invocation of the Defense Production Act and the Department's budget request to support critical mineral efforts. I think, again, making sure that we are focusing on supply where we have the supply, and we certainly have that in this country, matters. Domestic supply matters to our energy security. It also matters to our mineral security. And like oil and gas, one of the keys here to meeting this challenge is for the Department to actually make mine permit determinations in a timely manner. We've heard, not only in this committee, but we've certainly heard in the Energy Committee, that if we want to be competitive globally, if we want to be a producer and not just an importer, we cannot afford for it to take 10 years to permit a mine on public land. So I want to work with the department to ensure that our vast potential is realized in Alaska, whether it's gold or silver or copper, all of our critical minerals. But it seems that for every step forward we take on policy, we're taking 2 steps backwards on projects. Perfect example of that is the Ambler Access Road. Just kind of stunning that the administration has openly conflicted its commitment to supply chain security and deliberately set back one of its best options to improve it. Ambler has a guaranteed right-of-way under a 1980 law, under ANILCA, that the federal government has to abide by. I do understand, of course, the need for tribal consultation. I strongly support it, but that can occur even as access project continues. So telling Ambler to stop all work and lose a field season, I think, is a ridiculous approach that undermines any credibility the administration may be seeking on mineral security. What we need here is a strategic focus to reduce our dependence on China and Russia, other adversarial nations, but not an incoherent approach on minerals. So, Madam Secretary, to an area that I think we have much more agreement on, and that's working together to provide resources to our tribal communities. Whether we're talking about public safety and justice, natural resources, construction programs, working with our tribes throughout Alaska and in Indian country, I think that this has been one of those areas where we do have bipartisan support. We do have bicameral priority. We know that the appropriations process is never quick, it's never easy, but as we work through the process, I do think it's important for us to continue this bipartisan approach to these issues to ensure high priority program areas like PL 280 programs are funded. And then I want to wrap my remarks by thanking you for coming to Alaska to hear from so many Alaskans, the trip that you took to not only visit with people who came to Anchorage to meet with you, the meetings that you had, but also your travels to see firsthand some of the unique challenges and opportunities. I think this is particularly illustrated by our visit to King Cove and your opportunity to hear from residents about the critical need for a life-saving road. So I do appreciate that and value the time that you gave us for that. So as you consider this and other Alaska-specific issues, I hope you will build upon the experience that you had on the ground and consider the views of those most directly impacted by departmental decisions. I know that there are many areas where you and I we don't see eye to eye on some of these matters related to Alaska, but I appreciate your willingness to work with me on areas that we do have agreement. And I am ever hopeful that as you're continuing to hear from Alaskans, you will come to understand our state and the potential that it has really as an economic center and what we can provide and contribute for energy and mineral security, while at the same time an equal priority is to protect and care for our lands and our people. We need a lot from the department, more than we're getting right now, but thank you for being here. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate a little indulgence with the length of time in opening, but much to be said this morning. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.